Got you niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me. And Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault.
What up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? It's your boy, Eddie Collins.
And I'm Tatiana.
I've never said it like
Eddie's wife. Eddie Brandon's wife. I'm so bad at improvising. Hey, folks, we're doing a quick mini review of Alien Romulus, which we had the pleasure of seeing a few days ago. And it is a story. So the blurb is set between the events of Alien from 1979 and Aliens 1986. The story concerns a group of young space colonists who, while scavenging a derelict space station, come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. And that is slavery. I'm just kidding. It's a xenomorph. But there is slavery involved, which causes them to just be like, fuck it. Let's just try this thing out. If not, we're still going to be slaves anyway to the company.
I mean, I just don't know how this company functions by sacrificing. I mean, maybe there's so many humans across the fucking galaxy, right?
Yeah, because remember the colony that we meet them in, I think it says population like 2,000 something. Yeah, it's not that big.
It's not that big, but like their parents died in the mines.
Yeah. All the kids, well, they're not kids, they're adults, but it seemed like all of them, their parents died in the mines for various reasons. Like, yeah,
so it's just like, you know, these young folks are just, they are enslaved because Home Skillet, I don't, you guys know,
Rain.
I don't know. Her name's Rain, right?
Rain Carradine, played by Kaylee Spacey, who was recently in Civil War, and her brother slash android, Andy, played by David Johnson, who was on Industry. Really good. Both of them are really good together.
Yeah.
Immediately, like, even though I was getting my bearings, like, I don't know, I really felt for them because, like, you know, Andy, especially at the beginning, he's played like he's disabled. And, like, they allude that his, like, model of the android isn't the best or whatever.
Well, he was a scavenged
that's right. Yeah,
android.
yeah.
So he was already he was thrown out. He was discarded. And then her father, I guess,
took him in and then like basically said like your objective is
reprogrammed him so that his objective was to make sure the daughter was happy or protect
Rain,
right, which is fine. But you clearly are like, okay, once you figure and it's very early that you discover he's an android.
Yes, yeah, like he gets assaulted and he starts bleeding the white blood from the androids,
like the oil or whatever it is. So they're not trying to hide it right away, but him being an android is essentially the catalyst to everything. Because initially I was like, well, they wouldn't really make it that obvious. Because I feel like once the cat was out of the bag that he was an android, I was like, oh, now I know how the both of them wind up, where they wind up.
Well, that's not initially supposed to be the plan because initially, I guess Rain had worked so many hours for the company. This is the Wayland Corporation that's been in all these fucking movies and stuff, even the prequels, Prometheus and Comet. And basically, they double her hours needed to be able to basically be free of slavery. That she's indentured to this company for like, I think, what was it, 12,000 hours or something? It was
like 12,000, and she met the quota. She actually exceeded it by a couple of hours. So she's like, hey, I paid my dues, time for me to dip. And in real time, we see them being like, oh, the company has changed it. So it's now 24,000, which means you're here for another 6 years.
Yeah. And so like,
ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's immediately like, and it immediately reminded me that this is the world of Aliens. So, you know, because I watched the first two, like in preparation for this, you saw me like watching them. And it's like, oh, these are never like happy-go-lucky movies. These are never going to end well, right? And so when she gets recruited by like the old crew she used to hang out with because they need her, brother Andy to help them basically try to scavenge this ship that they found that possibly has the oil they need to get to this other colony where they'd be free of the company, basically. Because it would take them 9 light years or something to get there. And so they need the fuel to get them.
Well, I think they said that's where I was confused on if it was 9 years or 9 light years. Because like 9 years it's a lot of time, but it's doable. But I think the issue is that they're poor. Mm-hmm. So they do need these cryo chambers to even last 9 years. Because it didn't seem something so out of the ordinary that they couldn't do in their own lifetime. It was just genuinely, who the fuck wants to be up for 9 years? And then also you need to consume food and excrete and like all of that stuff. And so the objective was always for this group of people to go to this new space, right? To this new planet or wherever they're trying to go. And the droid was supposed to kind of keep watch.
Oh my God. I can't believe it. Like everyone's going to eye roll when I say I just realized this because of the corporate greed. That's why they created cryosleep.
Yes.
Just because it saves the money. Holy shit. I never even got that.
You never realized
I never realized that's why they were doing it. I thought it was just like to like, help with your body adjusting or something like that. But
I mean, let's be real. Light years, there's like, you would never, like, in order for us to get to Mars, it would take like 80 years. Yeah. So in one person's lifetime, they would have to be born on the spaceship as it's departing, and then to even get there, nevertheless, procreate and all that stuff. Yeah. So something like cryosleep would just pause that, even if for a couple of years, right? And it keeps you in this like stasis of where you're currently at. So regardless of whether it be 9 years or 9 light years, it's still a short amount of time in relation to the debt that they somehow magically accrue, even though clearly these people are paying it off in servitude.
Yep. Now, and to your defense about like, I didn't quite get what's going on. I will say the first 20 minutes or so, they're a little confusing. One, because there's like, a lot of things being thrown at you. Like there's a cold open with a spaceship. Then there's like, we jump into Rain and Andy's situation. Then we meet the ragtag crew that's trying to recruit her and Andy for this mission. And the crew, for the most part, except for Isabella Merced, who played the live action Dora, everyone's got an accent. I think maybe the Asian actress didn't, Eileen Wu as Navarro. I think maybe she didn't, but the guys definitely did. They had those thick fucking accents.
Yeah, one was British and one was Irish.
Irish or Scottish, but that shit was thick. I was like, I could really use subtitles right now, but I think I'm able to and then Andy has a British accent.
Yeah.
So it's like a few different things going on. And then they have scenes together, and I was like, oh, boy.
Well, I found it to be easy to follow. One, because you've seen the first 2 Aliens, you're like, got it. And this one takes place in between them. So just having that set up, you're like, okay, got it. But they open with them just whatever this company or ship or station, right? Because they're trying to figure out what it is. Yeah. Grabbing what seems to be a black rock, but we all know what that is. I don't think they're trying to hide it. Nothing is surprising here. In this whole movie, nothing is surprising. It's very
follows the same. Yeah, follows the same beats of the first 2 Aliens, basically, to the point where I was like, oh, okay, we're ending, and then like it kept like we had the twist with the hybrid, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this is an alien movie. That's how they do. They always think you like you're ending it. She's getting comfortable, and then shit pops off even worse than already.
So it was super formulaic. I think for a movie, if the intention was to be inspired by and pay homage, it does it well. Right?
Yeah, it looks great. Galileo Olivares, who's the cinematographer, this looked fucking amazing.
Yeah, it looks really, really good.
Shout out to the sound design. I tweeted initial thoughts about it. Shout out to sound design. And one of the people on the team said, oh, I love the positive feedback we're getting. It was really good. So, folks, if you're going to see this, see it in the theater that has a good sound system. Yeah. Because that made the experience amazing.
I mean, and I could see a jump scare coming a mile away. And with Alien, jump scares are that's just what they do. There was one jump scare I did not anticipate. Got me good because of the sound.
Yeah, and I will say regards to the scares and stuff like that, it's an alien movie, so you know how these xenomorphs move and how they camouflage themselves and stuff. It was still really creepy. There's a twist where it's a good combination, I would say, of Alien and Aliens. It's not as great in regards to storytelling or it's groundbreaking, effect, right? But I still think it had the very creepy, almost haunting claustrophobic feel of the first two. Like, because I never saw the first two in the theater.
Yeah.
So that's the closest I'm probably going to get to that. Like, because Prometheus was fine. Covenant didn't even see it in the theater. Resurrection, I just remember being like, this is really fucking weird. So this is the first Alien movie where I'm like, oh, I'm actually enjoying the suspense and like be on the edge of my seat.
The practical effects, I will say, while I can appreciate them, I feel like I just got really loud. Sorry, y'all. While I can appreciate the practical effects, there's a couple that made me feel Little Spirit Halloween.
Okay.
I will say that. But then with the juxtaposition of having practical effects, but then also needing special effects, I don't know that worked as well as I think it worked well for the movie that it was. But in retrospect, I was like, you could tell when something was a practical effect and when something was a special effect. And obviously, we're not in space, right? Like, I can suspend belief and being like, it's shot well, it's presented very well. But I'm like, oh, man. The things that are digitally touched you could just see it.
Yeah, I think for me, like, since we're kind of talking about things that didn't quite work for us, like, I could see, all the homages, callbacks to the original, especially, I would say actually there's callbacks to every single Alien movie that came before this one. Mm-hmm. Like, I could point to a scene or a thing from every single Alien movie and be like, that's what this scene's about, or that's what this is a homage to the point where there were actually verbal callbacks to the first two in different ways that made me roll my eyes. Like, I would have loved this if this is a standalone movie that takes place in the almost like the way Rogue One was for Star Wars, except for the ending where it's like, this is what starts A New Hope. You know what I mean? Like, because you still have the xenomorphs and the things that happen to this crew. I mean, the facehuggers I thought were that chase scene and stuff like that that's hinted in the preview that was really effective.
Yeah.
Just the way it's shot too was like one of the best looking sci-fi movies I've seen in a long time that Dylan Villeneuve did not direct. Like, I'm very impressed by what Fede Alvarez, the writer and director, did with this. But I actually thought it might be more violent, which is weird to say. I thought it was going to be gorier. So I felt like it kind of almost held itself back a little bit in that. But
I don't think so.
I mean, there was that birth scene that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
That even people in the theater were like, holy shit.
I was like, that's one way to have an abortion.
Yeah, I mean, there is some really graphic, jarring visuals in this. Don't make me give the impression that this is like a prude sci-fi horror film or anything like that. But
oh no, everything is very suggestive. Yeah. All the vagina vulvas and all the phallic things.
Oh yeah, the things the director Alvarez, he just likes things in their mouth because he's the director of that Don't Breathe movie with the blind dude in Detroit. I remember he gets like the cum squirt in his mouth that he inseminates through the turkey baster. Yeah, so he's got some oral things going on, but I did
so many shots of things,
especially the face huggers. Like, I mean, but it's interesting to see how that actually works finally, because I just think the technology wasn't available, especially for the first two, to be able to demonstrate like how intense that shit is.
Here's the thing, granted, maybe I just never. Because those were older movies and at a time where you couldn't just have somebody deep-throating something on camera, right? I just thought the fucking things went in the mouth and then burrowed in there.
That's my understanding, but I think it's because we saw them trying to hold them back from their faces, so it was the phallic thing was wiggling around a little bit. I know it's very odd and stuff, so I'm wondering if that's what that was about, but yeah,
maybe
it was a graphic scene. I mean,
it's just a lot. There's just a lot of like suggestive vagina, suggestive penis, and that's fine. I get it. Like, we don't want to say that part out loud.
And folks, we do spoil movies here. So again, if you haven't seen Alien Romulus, like we're kind of going around things. So maybe pause it here and then skip a minute ahead or something like that. There is an Ian Holm CGI cameo thing from the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's another droid. So basically it shows you the timeline of what this movie takes place in the universe that you didn't know. And so there's another version of the Ian Holm droid that kind of is like, I don't want to say the antagonist, but he's the manipulator because he gets to Andy and convinces Andy as an android because Andy ends up getting a chip from his himself, the Ian Holm droid before they reactivate him. And makes Andy actually more confident. He's more aware. He's physically
he's getting
sharper.
a system upgrade because this technology is newer, it's better.
That must have been,
and it's rewriting his code because the chick's dad wasn't like the best at it, you know? It makes sense.
Yeah, that must have been fun for the actor too, to be able to play a different version of him while still like, and, you know, his objective perfectly changes. But again, the Ian Holm thing didn't quite work because the CGI was so weird. Like it was, I don't know. Like obviously, I don't know if they had Ian Holm actually do the face work and then they try to de-age him. But it's so different than the whole look of the film that it was very jarring.
That's what I was trying to say. It stands out significantly where it's like the practical effects are and you're like, okay, if I'm suspending, and because it's supposed to take place in between 1 and 2, right?
Yep.
Then okay, practical effects make sense. But when that happens, you're just like, oh.
Yeah. They also have like a reference to Prometheus too. So like we know it's after Prometheus because a lot of people forget that Prometheus is supposed to be a prequel to everything. I did think that like, and that's what like threw me off because some of the CGI, like with the aliens, spoiler, there's more than one, when they get blown up, like they get shot up, and then the acid blood. And they have to move around that because there's a whole thing with gravity.
Oh, did you really want real acid floating around?
No, but I just thought that was something really cool because they actually never did that. Probably because they didn't have the technology to pull that scene off. But 2, like that's also intense too because as a viewer, you know what that acid does. You've seen already kill one of the characters. So.
Well, I mean, a good sequel would level up, right? And so that's what I'm saying. The stuff that they did, like what works well works really well. It's when it doesn't that it stands apart so much that you can't help but notice that it's not. It's either, maybe they didn't have enough budget to soften the edges, or they had too much budget and now it looks too clean.
I mean, it had an $80 million budget, and aside for the CGI, like I thought the practical effects actually were good. There's a hybrid twist at the end that mix between practical and CGI. That freaked you out.
I mean, let's be real. Y'all heard the song before this episode played,
but we didn't even talk about the pregnant character. So, like, we got.
It doesn't matter. She is a non-issue because she's a non-factor. She's not in it.
That's true. She's barely in it. She's one of those characters where you're like, is she gonna make it? Like you're like, there's 2 times where you're like, nope. Like, I mean, even though she's pregnant, it's
but the minute they introduce all the characters and they're very upfront, which I can appreciate, right? Which is they weren't hiding. This is the new Ridley, right? This is the new droid. This is the new love interest. This is, this chick is pregnant. I wonder what could possibly happen here. So
it's weird that I was like kind of prude. Like I was like, they're not going to do what I think they're going to do with her being pregnant. And then I forgot about Prometheus where she literally got inseminated and they had to like fucking basically cut it out of her and shit. Yeah. So I should have known better.
You should have known better. But in this case, she willingly, again, I don't want to talk about her as a character because I don't think they gave her enough substance for it to be like worthy of the time we have on our podcast, right? But the outcome of this, which is the big spoiler, this hybrid alien human, what the fuck?
It was really freaky.
I understand the first generation of something maybe is not pretty.
It was like a mix between the humanoid at the beginning of Prometheus and the xenomorph. It was really freaky.
It was, I mean, okay, this is going to sound weird, but the alien, it's like sleek. It's sexy, right? It's like, it's clean.
It's a cool design,
It's cool design. It's fit. And then this thing comes out of her.
That's basically saying, I mean, that's why the droids keep calling it beautiful. And then like the human, our genetics fuck it up. We fuck up the design. So actually it's kind of fitting that you had this like kind of disgust towards the design of it.
I was like, no. I was like, yes, kill it. Listen, I can understand the alien as a species is just trying to survive. And in this space, it's just doing what it's designed to do. That shit, I was gagging in the theater because it's not cute by any means. As like the scene progresses, it's also growing and changing. It's the ugliest thing I've seen in a long time. Granted, like maybe they're trying to be like, we don't want it to be a good looking thing because then people are gonna romanticize it and feel like it was just ugly.
It wasn't your cup of tea.
And when it finally came on screen, the audience reaction was very telling.
This was a movie where I was reminded how great it is to watch a movie as a community.
Yeah,
because the reactions were like even like just some action scenes. People were like, "Oh," like you know, it was a lot of fun, and on top of it, looking really good at times. Like there's a really cool like kind of spaceship crash scene in the third act that's just really beautiful. Like the way that it was visualized, like it kind of reminded me of Gravity in some moments where I was like, "Oh, in IMAX, this would look amazing."
Oh yeah, I mean, it was giving. I think the sound was giving that in the beginning. Was giving Gravity. The visual you mentioned with the crashing into the rings, and that's all CGI, you know. So that's obviously we're not crashing into planet rings. But all in all, I would say that I agree with you. I don't know that this would have been. I mean, we watch a lot of movies. We watch a lot of movies at home and in a theater. And this is definitely a movie, one, to see in a theater, so you get the full scope of the visual and the sound. But then the community aspect of like having a jump scare and the person next to you also having it, that helped. I think that definitely helped. And you and I weren't sitting immediately next to each other, right? And it was a full theater.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, let's just get to our ratings. Tatiana, you know, we rate movies on scales of popcorn: small, medium, large, XL for the exceptional. The movie does not deserve a fresh bag of popcorn. We put into a stale popcorn pile. We pile piles and piles of stale popcorn on it. So we saw Alien Romulus, directed and written by Fede Alvarez and starring Kaylee Spani, David Johnson, and Isabella Mercy. What say you?
I am giving Alien Romulus a medium.
Okay.
It was enjoyable. It does not disappoint. If you like the Alien franchise and appropriately, you know, for introducing spooky season, it was giving the jump scares, it was giving these effects. I could totally see a ton of Halloween costumes coming out of this. More, you know, it's just not surprising, aside from that hybrid thing that pops out at the end. But like, not surprising. You're getting what you're paying for. Solid medium.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with a medium as well. I think it is one of the best looking movies I've seen this year. It's in regards to cinematography, it's one of the best sounding movies. I think it's top nominee for sound design, absolutely, for the Oscars and stuff like that. And I think the cast did what they were supposed to do. You know, they all did their little parts. You know, there's even like a little hint of like who the father of the baby might be, even though he may supposedly boot up with this other character. And then I just love the Andy Rain relationship. I love the portrayal of those characters.
Yes.
And I would love to see future adventures with them. Does this movie set up a sequel? Maybe, but it also could be standalone. And that's kind of like the greatness of how they end it. But like you said, it is predictable. It really does follow. It's, to me, I'm like, is it a requel? Because it follows the same beats as the original, basically, but just has a different spin on it. But it doesn't continue the story. You know what I mean? So I'm like, it did the job it's supposed to do, which is reunite interest in the franchise, similar to that Prey movie that we saw for the Predator series. That was really good. So if this is the direction that they might go in with Alien, I know the dude that Fargo is doing his own Alien series. I'm all for it. Like, let's diversify this. If it's a naturally diverse cast, wasn't forced at all.
They did work well together. You know, it's just there's not much to say. You know, and also female protagonist.
Yeah, but none of it felt forced, and that's the thing with sci-fi. You can get away with a lot of this stuff, which is one of the reasons why I love the genre so much. So, Tatiana, thank you for doing this mini episode with me. Tell the people how they can follow you on social media.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram at Boriqua Collins. Where can they follow you?
Y'all know you can follow me at Frodo_Blackins on Threads and Instagram. And you can follow the show at Media Pete Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to tpublic.com/MediaPodcast and get yourself some swag on that. And, we hope you all enjoyed our little mini review on Alien Romulus. Definitely let us know if you checked it out. Hit us up on the social medias. Let us know what you thought of the movie. And, again, patreon.com/mediapopcorn for all your media popcorn needs. And if you want access to bonus content, there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of bonus content. So go over to Patreon. Give it a whirl. All right, y'all. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Medium popcorn.
What's up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? That's right. There's more medium popcorn. After Tati and I's Alien Romulus review, we got some movie news and trailer reactions to talk to y'all about.
Movie news and trailer reactions. Movie news and trailer reactions.
That sounds like Michael McDonald if, like, the cigarettes finally got to him. Like, he was just finally couldn't just hit those notes anymore. He got that cold sweat. You know, it's just like, I don't see the way I used to.
I got the meat sweats.
He definitely seems like a dude who eats, like, steak and gravy every night.
Mm-hmm.
Not even with mashed potatoes, just steak and gravy.
There's definitely meat sweats in his future. Or in his past.
Okay. So, folks, we're going to start off by kicking off talking about some Disney news. D23, which is the big Disney event that happens, I believe, every year, happened this past weekend as of this recording. And they announced a lot of shit, both from Marvel, Pixar, and just general Disney 20th Century Fox stuff. You know, we got a new Mufasa the Lion King trailer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A new Tron movie is coming out with Jared Leto, Evan Peters, and Greta Lee, who, lordy. And apparently it's going to be scored by Nine Inch Nails, which at first I'm like, isn't that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross? And apparently Atticus Ross just joined Nine Inch Nails. So now Trent Reznor gets to, like, not only get the glory, but also get to get the money. Because now that's Nine Inch Nails licensing and shit.
Baby, I got the money. baby, I got the money.
I just wonder, like, with Tron, like, who asked for that? Because I saw Tron Legacy, and despite being visually cool, like, I thought it was incredibly boring.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you anything that happened in the two Tron movies before this one, so.
Yeah, I'm not a big Tron guy either.
Yeah. And the last Jared Leto movie we got was Morbius, so it's just.
Hey, miss me on that shit.
To say Jared Leto needs a hit is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of movies that maybe will be a hit, but I don't know, that Snow White, we'll talk about the trailer in a little bit, but that they debuted some footage from that. Mind you, this movie's been done for a few years now, I think. Starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot as the evil queen, which she needs a hit too, because after Wonder Woman 2, like, I think people are finally being like, is she a good actress? Question mark?
Yeah, it's like well, it was that movie, and then it was Red Note.
Yeah,
Red Note.
the one with, I mean, everyone was bad in that. Like Rock, Ryan Reynolds, like no one could save that movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, her stuff is just kind of compiling into just being. It's just like, oh no, these are nothing but stinkers.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because, especially with women in Hollywood, you know how the game is. You know how sexism works. Like, eventually she's going to have to do something to show, like, oh, no, I can act, because it's very easy. She's not getting younger. It'll be very easy to replace her.
It'll be, and unfortunately, because, you know, listen, they got rid of the Weinsteins and things like that. But let's not act like there's still not more of them out there. Eventually she's going to start getting people asking her to, like, hey, you know, what do you think about going topless for this scene and things like that? It's, if it hasn't come already, it's bound to start coming, like getting those pushes to kind of like, it's almost like the desperation push to like keep you relevant. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's really hard for women in the business. That's where it really comes down to.
Yes, it is. You know, because some people, they have to go back to the well from a movie that came out in the early 2000s, like Lindsay Lohan, who's doing Freakier Friday. That was just announced as the title for the Freakier Friday 2 movie with her and Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, I will say I'm happy that Lindsay Lohan is doing a theatrical movie, though, because I was feeling really sad for her with these Netflix Christmas movies. I get it. They're paying her some money to do it, but those movies are god-awful. So, yeah. And remember, in the 2000s, man, she was doing a thing. Like, obviously Mean Girls, but she was in a bunch of movies, and she wasn't bad. So I'm glad that, you know, things are starting to perk up a little bit.
Well, I mean, it took her a while, obviously, due to some of the legal troubles that she had over the years. And she was, you know, uninsurable. Yeah. But obviously, you know, those, you know, hard times are now starting to subside. And, you know, she can kind of get on with her career, which is, you know, good, because everybody wants to see her on the upswing as opposed to the downward trajectory that she was on.
Yeah, everyone wants to see a comeback. especially for someone like who was a child actor who like, was around for a lot of our childhood, like in various capacities on Disney and then like The Parent Trap and things like that. So, speaking of comebacks, Daredevil Born Again. We'll talk about the leaked trailer from D23, but everybody's back. Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, Deborah Ann Wall, Eldon Henson, and John Barenthal as the Punisher.
Yeah, and when he popped up, people started clapping.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's dope, but we'll talk about how that works, because if that's still canon, the Netflix show, which I have no problem with, I love the Netflix show. We both have talked about how much we enjoyed the Netflix show. That means Iron Fist and other shit is technically canon, and that's where I have a problem. Also,
Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
And Luke Cage, which is confusing because Mahershala is supposed to be playing Blade. So what are we doing? Anyways.
And Jessica Jones, not to forget about that one.
Yeah, I mean, but there's also some issues with that one too. But we'll talk about that maybe when we touch on the Daredevil Born Again trailer that was shown.
Yeah.
Ironheart was finally announced. I mean, they've already finished the series. It's been done for a while, since I think 2022. So it's been just waiting around. So we'll see how this fits Riri Williams from Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And we'll see like what it tells about her story. Anthony Ramos is in it, as well as Alden Ehrenreich. They showed some footage. Had a pretty mixed response. Like, people were like, it looks fine. Like, no one was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best thing Marvel had to offer. But, we'll wait and see. And also Marvel talked about Fantastic Four and Captain America Brave New World, where we saw some official footage of Harrison Ford turning into the Red Hulk, which, Harrison, get your money. Get your money, man. It would have been cool to see William Hurt finally, like, go full circle with that role that he's been playing since the first Incredible Hulk movie, but R.I.P. And so it's not bad to get a replacement actor in Harrison Ford, though.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, the star power is definitely gonna lend to the film.
Yep. I was actually listening to a podcast, the John Campea podcast, and they were talking about the whole Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom stuff, and they were like, it kind of works. It might have been a different podcast, but regardless, the podcaster basically was like, it kind of works, but it would have been cool to get a really big A-lister to play Dr. Doom that you wouldn't think would do Marvel movies. And then like the co-host was like, well, who do you think? And he said, and we've talked about this before on the show, he said Leo or Denzel would have been huge. Yeah. If you got in one of those guys, because they're like notoriously like, I don't do superhero movies, but like it would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have been. But you know what? I do think that there could be some compelling storylines, with Robert Downey Jr. So, like, I'm kind of just wait and see on that one.
I am too, but the thing for me, and I don't want to go too far down this Marvel rabbit hole, Justin, but it's, I think there's something really beautiful that could happen with you start the MCU with Robert Downey Jr. and you end this iteration of the MCU with Robert Downey Jr. as the main villain, right? But then, for me, I'm like, well, what happens to Shang-Chi and, Shuri and all, like if it's going to be a reboot of the MCU and focus on mutants going forward, what happens to all the other characters that they never got their full shot at being like, what I mean? It's just, it's kind of like, damn, what happens to those folks?
So I think that we're also going to hit a point where, and again, like you said, we don't want to go too far down there. I think that, once, we probably get into like a battle world and all that stuff, and then it resets, I think you're going to have some people who are going to continue with their characters moving forward in Marvel. Like Shang-Chi, I think that definitely. I think Shuri's not going to go too far because they're going to then move over
to T'Challa's son, right?
Yeah. And, it'll be T'Challa as a Black Panther.
Yo, and you get T'Challa, like, and that kid grows up and you get him teamed up with Miles Morales.
There you go.
That'd be dope.
So, like, that's just kind of where I see it. But, like, yeah, so the newer characters we have, those guys are probably going to stick around for much longer. Now, the other thing I do think that we're going to have that we have to answer the question is, what's happening to Hercules at the end of the store? There's a lot of loose threads that popped up in post-credit scenes that never really gotten their due. So it's like, are we going to wrap up those stories, or is that we just going to forget that was even done?
Yeah, a lot of people were like talking about how, like, Bob Iger didn't mention anything about Blade during this presentation or during like the stockholder conference and stuff like that. And I'm like, if they have no updates to give, like, why bring it up? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, unless it's going to get canceled, which is definitely a possibility.
I want them to just cancel it.
Yeah.
I'd rather they cancel it and actually give us a wrap up film with Blade, with Wesley Snipes Blade.
I mean, as much as I love the cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine,
I know.
I don't think he could do a whole movie. Like
Neither do I.
He looks so skinny. I loved him, but he did look older and skinnier. It was just like, okay.
No, 100%. But like at the same time, if it's, you know, I after seeing him in Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm just kind of like, why don't we just, you know, finish up with this and then you worry about starting a new Blade, you know, in the next iteration of you know, the MCU.
Yeah. I mean,
is after I guess the next snap.
Yeah,
set.
Maybe. In some Star Wars news, they did show some footage of the Mandalorian Grogu, where Jon Favreau said that they'd started filming a few weeks ago. It's the first Star Wars film since 2019 with The Rise of Skywalker, which basically killed my love for Star Wars. But the footage did look pretty cool. The only thing is you're taking your hit show that had a mixed season 3 and making a feature film, which you're capitalizing on a huge property. I get it, but okay. Like, what else do you got? You know, I mean, also Pedro Pascal, there's no way he's on set. It's all voice work for him. Like, because he can't be doing that and Fantastic Four. It's logistically impossible unless it's all on the same soundstage.
Listen, if you want that money, you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
there's lots of actors who've done, you know.
I mean, he's getting that money. It's just, you know. Yeah.
But the good thing is, it's all under one umbrella for the most part, because it's under the Disney umbrella. So therefore, they'll be making it work.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. And he already finished The Last of Us Part 2, folks. And rumor is that he finished that pretty early in the filming of Season 2, folks. So if you know anything about the second game, you know what that means. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, that's on you if you haven't played The Last of Us 2. It's one of the best video games ever. That's on you if you don't know what's coming. And I mean, it's going to be rough. If you're going in blind, it's going to be rough for you. I'm just telling you.
I hurt myself today.
That needs to be the song for the trailer for Season 2. For sure. That needs to be it. Andor also had some updates where Ben Mendelsohn from Rogue One is actually going to be returning his villain character. Because remember, this is a prequel to Rogue One. Great villain, so that kind of works for me. He's also a great actor. I just wish he... I mean, I know like with the Skrull character in Marvel, he got to play sort of a hero. Like he eventually became a hero, but he's always a villain, man. That must suck to always be a villain, never the hero.
Yeah, well, you know, listen, if you're good at it, you're good at it, baby.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are also updates about Frozen 3, Zootopia 2, and my personal favorite, The Incredibles 3 was announced. Which Brad Bird is directing, was developing right now. He's the one that created the first and second Incredibles. That's my favorite Pixar franchise. I know a lot of people have a soft spot for Toy Story, obviously, or Ratatouille, or Bug's Life. You know, what's your favorite Pixar franchise?
Oh man,
it doesn't have to be a franchise. It could be just like, you know, a solo film. Like that's your favorite one.
It actually may be Toy Story.
Okay,
maybe Toy Story.
Okay, so what do you think about Toy Story 5 that they announced with director Andrew Stanton, who did Finding Nemo, and it's going to be them facing off technology like iPads, iPhones, and 50 malfunctioning Buzz Lightyears? So
I think that it's very topical, which is going to make it very interesting, but doesn't make it interesting for us. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Are kids really going to really hone in on what this actually means? I feel like the premise is going to be more geared towards the adults, and because the world that they're speaking to is long gone. Kids don't play with toys that same way. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge property for them, and I don't think they would bring these characters back if they didn't have a good story to tell. It's just Toy Story 3 was so perfect, and then Toy Story 4 was like a good epilogue. It's like, okay, they ended up in a new home, but then Woody's not happy. So what does that mean for Woody? And then he finds Bo Peep, and they have their own, you know, they separate, right? So now it's like, what brings them back? So I'm hoping that it's worthy of, you know, adding another one, but we'll wait and see. There is an original Pixar movie called Hoppers that stars John Hamm and your friend Bobby Monahan from SNL. They'll be leading a body swap movie about a beaver and a human who exchange bodies.
That's wild.
That's fucking crazy. And there also is going to be an Inside Out TV spinoff, which I think is smart. After, the #1 animated film of all time with Inside Out 2, they're going to be creating a spinoff called Dream Productions, which will bow next year. And that's kind of, you saw Inside Out 2? Or no?
No, actually, I didn't see that one yet.
Yeah, so there's like a world where the people are actually creating the dreams for the humans. Like, it's like a really silly thing. And so I guess it's going to be a spinoff of that. Similar to in Big Mouth with the monsters and like that spinoff with the monster world and like, all that stuff. So I'm interested. Inside Out 2 is really good, but it'll be out on Disney Plus probably soon. So you'll be able to watch it with the kids and stuff. But it was a very good sequel, man.
Nice.
Oh, there's also one bit, dude. There's a bit that I know you're gonna fucking lose your mind because you used to have that Dora the Explorer bit about her breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience.
Yeah.
There's a bit in Inside Out 2, and folks, you'll know what I'm talking about. That you're gonna lose your shit. You're gonna laugh so hard.
Okay,
it's really fucking funny.
Hold on, I need to give honorable mention for my favorite Pixar, Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph.
That's not Pixar though. That's just Disney.
It's not.
No.
Oh shit!
But that's a really good one. The first one's really good.
Phenomenal. The second one's solid, but the first one was
the first one with that crazy villain with the Turbo-tastic. Turbo. Like, he kept going into other people's games. They're like, this is a racing game. That thing was fucking nuts. But yeah, Wreck-It Ralph was really good.
Excuse me.
Disney also talked about the new Avatar movie that's coming out next year, December 2025, called Avatar: Fire and Ash, which James Cameron already talked about. He's going to introduce fire in the next one. We're literally doing the last Airbender element, so wind is obviously going to be next. And then Dwayne Johnson announced a movie called Monster Jam that's going to involve monster trucks.
Yep.
I'm like, of course, but he has the development deal with Disney, so that makes sense.
But let me tell you, so I took Jackson to Monster Jam for his birthday in February.
Okay.
And so I remember Monster Jam when I was a kid.
Okay.
That shit's still going strong.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually a hell of a time. So like I'm surprised that it's taking this long for them to kind of to go back to that well or animate it, because I remember when I was a kid, there was it was a monster trucks like TV show. It was like a Bigfoot little cartoon and whatnot. And the fact is, like, we're so far removed from that, and then now they're finally going to do something animated with it. I'm like, it's about time, because like Jackson saw it and immediately like fell in love with those trucks and things like that. If you have kids and you haven't done Monster Jam, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your kids a disservice. Check it out. And it's actually not all that expensive.
Okay. There you go. Monster Jam has its ringing endorsement from Mr. Brown over here.
Hey, baby, that's what I do.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the entertainment industry is still having a lot of issues, coming from the strikes and the pandemic. One of the studios is Warner Brothers Discovery, which recently just scrubbed Cartoon Network from the interwebs. Yeah. You can only find content available on Max, and that's very selective stuff. It's not going to be the whole catalog of a lot of stuff that's near to my heart from the 90s and everything. It's just
Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, that's
Hanna-Barbera. Yeah.
And there's no hard copies of this shit. Like, it's just, I used to laugh at the homie Chris Lambert about him always getting Blu-rays and DVDs. And now I'm like, man, I should have kept my DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
I should have kept them, because you can't trust these streamers now to keep this content. And so, that broke my heart, because one of the first contests I ever entered was for a Cartoon Network thing. And I got like a Cartoon Network sticker in the mail. I was like 6 years old. And I was like, oh, this is sweet.
Yeah.
It's that was really hard to read. But yeah, there's
because that's where are you gonna watch those like old classic like Looney Tunes and things like that.
If you're lucky, you can find some stuff on YouTube, but that's if Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't pull it down and shit.
Exactly.
Which, based on how much they're hemorrhaging employees and laying off people, maybe they won't have the capacity to be able to do that. So
and also just considering the fact is how much the world has changed. A lot of those cartoons from back in the day that we grew up with may not necessarily translate to the new world very well, because let's be totally honest, they may have some crass humor in there, which is not necessarily seen as funny these days. And it's just like, yeah, you're not gonna like you if you have a fond memory of something, like it's like it's gone, baby.
Yeah, there's some wild shit, especially back when Cartoon Network first came out, like Cow and Chicken and shit. There's some wild shit.
Yeah. There's an old cartoon called Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, and it was kind of like no, it's not kind of this, yes, in a way, yes. It's almost like beating your kids, but it wasn't. It wasn't that, but in the fucking the intro, the Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, the theme song in the cartoon, like the girl sneaks out on a date and she comes back and like her dress is like torn and things like that because obviously her date tried to like sexually assault her. I'm just like, what? But it's a cartoon from the 60s. I'm just like, of course it is. It's nuts. But pretty decent cartoon. Coincidentally though.
Hey, I mean, like a lot of stuff in the 60s still kind of holds up. Like there may be some problematic themes and stuff like that, but like old Jetsons cartoons are still awesome.
Yeah.
Same with Flintstones. They're fucking crazy, but they're still a lot of fun.
Josie and the Pussycats, Jabberjaw.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo. Even though those niggas never really solved the crime actively.
Fucking Top Cat.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, if Velma had died, the Mystery Machine would be fucked. They would be in trouble. If Velma ever got by one of those dudes.
Daphne only needs to start in OnlyFans, and they're good, baby.
That's true. Daphne was a baddie. But Velma in the movies was hot. Anyways,
yes.
Speaking of attractive white starlets, I'm sorry, Lluvia. I know you say we got to stop doing this commentary, but Michelle Pfeiffer is going to be starring and executive producing in the new Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone franchise called Madison, which was previously titled 2024. I don't watch these shows, but apparently they do really well. And this show is also going to star Kurt Russell, which is pretty interesting. We were fans of Taylor Sheridan because of Hell at High Water and Wind River, and then he did that terrible movie with Angelina Jolie that was so atrocious. I was just like, I don't know anymore. I don't know if I like this dude, but maybe I'll give Yellowstone a shot because Kevin Costner in westerns is pretty good, even though he had the falling out with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to, because westerns it's cool, but it's also kind of
problematic. Yes, especially
yeah,
especially black folks watching.
Yeah. If you're black, if you're black, indigenous, you're gonna see some shit that you're not gonna necessarily like.
Exactly. But hopefully something that we will like, Justin, is Lionsgate's John Wick Under the High Table, which is a series that's going to be executive produced by Keanu Reeves, and the director Chad Stahelski is going to be directing the pilot episode. It's going to be written by the Old Man co-creator Robert Levine, and picks up directly after the end of John Wick Chapter 4, where he left the high table in a tenuous situation, and a clutch of new characters will look to make a name for themselves, while some of the franchise Stewart characters remain committed to the old world order. So, basically the high table is going to be fucked up because, John Wick wasn't supposed to be able to live, let alone be able to challenge the dude that was hired by the high table to fucking correct all the shit he put in motion, starting with John Wick 1. And so the fact that John Wick was able to get away with it, and then also I wouldn't be surprised if the series hints that John might still be alive. Yeah. So I'm all for it. Anything that continues this world, I'm all about it. Like Anna de Armas has that spinoff Ballerina coming out soon. I'm all about that. I just love this franchise, man. So what are your thoughts on it?
There's also the story about figuring out what's going on with Kane because that girl, goes after him at the end and everything like that. So there's a lot that, there's a lot of loose ends. Listen, I'm here for it. I'm going to watch it. I just, let's see what happens. I just hope it doesn't end up diluting, the great story that John Wick 4 was, though.
Yes, absolutely. I have confidence that they'll put together a good story, and because Keanu doesn't have to be in front of the camera, but he's very involved still. I think that they'll make sure that the world it's true to the world they created and stuff like that. Yep. I didn't watch the Continental Peacock series though, so
I didn't either.
Yeah, so maybe I'll check that out and see if there's a reason to worry. So we'll report back, folks, after we check that series out. For the first time in a while, I actually might go back to Broadway because they're doing a revival of Glengarry Ross starring Kieran Culkin, Bob Odenkirk, and Bill Burr.
Yeah.
That's
I love me some Bill Burr, so I'm there for that.
With this dialogue, I mean, that could be really good. Glengarry Ross is one of my favorite scripts ever. It's so fucking good. Just insane white men losing their fucking minds because they can't make money. I mean, in the movie you had Alec Baldwin, Al Pacino, Ed Harris, and have you never seen the movie, dude? Oh. Jack Lemmon. It's fucking. We should do it we should review it. It's really good, dude. Add it to the list.
Why don't we review? Well, why don't we review that? And if we can, then actually go see the play.
That'd be cute. We go on a little date. We can do that.
If you putting out.
God damn it. I never put out on a first date. Anyway,
I'm sure you have. You fucking whore.
Hey, it's not my fault she got me sauced up on margaritas. Anyways, Jesus, that got weird. Speaking of giving out on the first date, Glenn Powell has a new movie coming that's in development with J.J. Abrams. He puts out. Look at that man. That Jenna Ortega is also in talks with. There's a secret project at Warner Brothers. And they're finalizing their deal, but nothing's known about the script except that it's not a time travel movie. Apparently J.J. Abrams wrote the script and his Bad Robot is producing. I'm interested in this just because J.J. Abrams hasn't done a movie in a minute.
Yeah.
And he's had a lot of things that didn't follow through because, I guess like he takes a lot of time to develop stuff and they're always really expensive. So, I mean, that's a hell of a cast already. If you got your headliners, Jenna Ortega, who's about to get really big because of Beetlejuice, and Glenn Powell, who's already having a hell of a year, not a bad place to be.
Did you watch the Netflix film
Hitman?
Yeah. I thought it was solid. Wait, not even that one. The
one with Sydney Sweeney?
Yeah, did you watch that one?
I didn't see that one yet. I heard mixed things.
It wasn't terrible, but it was a decent film. Like I found myself, I'm just like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is gonna be a dumb movie that I never want to see again. And you go, it's like, okay, I kind of enjoyed that. It's one of the bad.
Maybe I'll watch it on my flight back to Michigan tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm always into, romantic comedies that are like, weird and, have up and coming stars and stuff like that. I mean, I wish I saw more that had people that look like us. I think the last one I saw was The Photograph with Issa Rae and Lakeith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it'd be nice, Hollywood, if you mixed it up a little bit. Anyways, I mean, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, before they both really blew up, that's smart casting. Whoever their casting director was, they had their finger on the pulse.
And also that's good management.
Yeah. Speaking of casting, Peter Stormare is playing his original character, I believe, from the Until Dawn game in the upcoming adaptation for Sony's Screen Gems. Director David F. Sandberg, who last directed Shazam! Fury of the Gods, is returning to the horror genre to work on this film. I really like this game. It's one of those games where it's like you make decisions throughout the game, and it's like a butterfly effect. It like literally you see a butterfly in the corner, and like it could dictate how the game plays out. And I play it every Halloween just because it's really creepy. And it's got it's got stop motion, but you can tell the actors are supposed to, like Hayden Panettiere's in it, Rami Malek is in it, and it's very photorealistic and really creepy. But I think the movie could be good. I know the one
you're talking about. I've played one of those as well.
Yeah. It could be a good movie as long as it deviates enough from the game so it's not predictable for people that have already played the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, folks, be on the lookout for that. And now, before we wrap up some movie news and get to trailers, we got to go to a new section for this mini episode called Black Actors.
I'm rooting for everybody black.
Black actors. Black actors.
That's right. SNL cast member Punky Johnson's revealed that they are departing the show after 4 seasons. They announced their exit at a recent comedy show in New York. So, after 4 years, Punky is leaving.
Well, I mean, partly that is because she's going to be, hosting a brand new show. So she's leaving to do that. And, they were kind of asked, hey, how's the SNL coming on? She's like, well, not going to be there. But good for her. She's obviously maturing as an artist. She's doing more, and SNL.
Yep.
It's really a springboard for all those performers on there, and as being what it is, she's moving on to the next level and starting something for herself. So more power to her.
I know, I get it. It's just that this is about to be season 50, and the rumor is Lauren is retiring and possibly ending the show after this season. So if that's if that's true, if any of that's remotely true, like I want to be part of that season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time,
It's a stressful environment.
It could also be writing on the wall.
True.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You quit before they fire you or something like that.
Yeah,
or let you go.
Well, let's not even say that, or just the fact is like where the direction that last season. She probably has some inside intel. She's like, I don't know about this. Like maybe it's a good time, for her to float out, which is, sometimes not a bad idea.
Got it. You're right. And more Black Actor news. Amazon MGM Studios released a first look of Unstoppable, a wrestling drama based on the true story of Anthony Robles, which stars Jarrell Jerome from Moonlight and When They See Us, and Jennifer Lopez. It's set to premiere at this year's Toronto Film Festival. And it's based on the book Unstoppable, From Underdog to Undefeated, How I Became a Champion, which is by Robles. And it's about his story of, despite being born without a right leg and growing up in an abusive household, Robles rose to become a NCAA Division I champion wrestler, ultimately winning a national championship against a school that rejected him, National Powerhouse, Iowa. So I'm definitely going to be seeing that. Jarrell Jerome, I think, is a really strong up-and-coming talent. And I hope that more people start recognizing that.
And also on top of that, I think it's probably a good career step for Jennifer Lopez, kind of taking a step out of just being like the main person, in the film, so she can kind of work on, adding some emotional beats to it. Because I believe she may be playing his mother. I'm not sure.
Maybe the article didn't say, but I imagine so.
Yeah, I mean, through some of the things I saw, it kind of looks that way. But I think career-wise is good for J-Lo at this point. And Jarrell Jerome, I mean, that guy is great. And also, man, the sport of wrestling, of collegiate amateur wrestling, is very storied. And there's a lot of heartbreak, and it's a really tough sport. And if we had the Foxcatcher back in the day, but there's definitely stories there. So I imagine that he's gonna be able to bring something to this that's already there. But having such a good actor under the helm is definitely gonna help.
Absolutely. Speaking of another Black actor working with an actress named Jennifer, Lakeith Stanfield is in final negotiations to star opposite Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson in the thriller Die My Love, with Lynn Ramsey directing. It's set in a remote, forgotten rural area. The story follows a mother who struggles to maintain her sanity as she battles with psychosis. It's unknown who Stanfield will play. We talked about this in a review that's coming up soon, the Book of Clarence, about Lakeith Stanfield and kind of where he's at in his career. So I'm glad to see that he's getting up and working. And last time a Black actor worked with Jennifer Lawrence, they got nominated for Oscar when Brian Tyree Henry did that. I think it was called Castaway or something like that. It was an Apple TV movie that no one saw.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. We got some Wesley Snipes news. Justin, you want to tell the people about that?
Oh, baby, it's all about the Snipes. So if you didn't know already, Wesley Snipes, spoiler alert, was in Blade and Blade.
Blade and Wolverine.
Blade and Blade. But his appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine actually broke some Guinness book records that was being within Marvel, though, as he basically has the longest running character within the Marvel cinematic universe, that being obviously Blade. The last time Blade was on screen was 2004, but the first movie came out 1998, so that actually puts him, I think, about 2 years over Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. And then And then the other record was basically largest gap between roles, and that is 19 years and 231 days. So yeah, I think he passed. Oh, he surpassed Alfred Molina's for reprising Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, and then Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a 17-year gap.
Yep. So, shout out to Mr. Snipes doing the Lord's work with these Marvel movies. And now, to wrap up our movie news, another black actor who is doing things in the MCU. They recently, it's been announced that there's the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series coming to Disney from Marvel, and Coleman Domingo will be voicing the villain Norman Osborn in this new animation, which basically shows him as the mentor for Peter Parker instead of Tony Stark from the MCU version that we've seen. I'm incredibly excited about that because I think
you have a man crush, Coleman Domingo.
I mean, Coleman Domingo's a great looking dude. He's a very nice dude. I've met him several times. But one, he's a great voice actor. That's a great voice to put with that character. But two, he is old enough, but also still young enough where he could be Norman Osborn in the legit live action MCU.
That's true. That's very true.
And then we can get a brown Harry Osborn. It could be biracial, what have you. And then you bring in Miles. They're like the same age. Then you do the Harry Osborn story with Miles.
Okay.
But the only thing is, Hollywood's gonna be, well, is anyone gonna follow a movie that stars two, biracial brown boys? But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I do think it's incredibly exciting seeing Coleman Domingo potentially being able to parlay this into a bigger role within the MCU.
Yeah, and especially also Coleman Domingo's he's a pretty fit guy, so he can actually do the role. As fucking Green Goblin, whatever, and he could do it justice. Yeah. He'd be formidable, physically rather.
Yeah, I mean he's in great shape and he has that voice, so he can definitely go. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw Zola, but he was fucking crazy in that. So yeah, he can do villains pretty well. All right, folks. So that's our movie news. We're gonna jump to talk about some quick trailers, starting with the Gary Coleman documentary that's gonna be on Peacock soon. Ooh, child. They're positing that this nigga got murdered, right?
Yeah. and maybe that his ex-wife did it. Who knows?
Yeah, I was like, oh, we're going there? Okay, because the trailer's only like a minute and a half. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because it's really plays like a whodunit. And I was just like, well, wait a second.
Yeah, they're like, he got fucked over by his parents, and then he got killed.
Well, yeah, apparently they stole over like $700,000 from him over the time of his obviously being on television with different strokes and whatnot. It's tough because I also think about that. It's like your kids doing this show, right? And they're big now. Obviously, things have changed the way they were in the 70s, and like you need to have a trust. Develop the trust for a kid, to basically stop parents from just taking all the money. But at the same time, if your kid is a star, your kid is also kind of your full-time job. So like, it's a weird place. It's a weird place because when they're on set, a lot of times they either have a handler or the parent is somewhere on set or close to something like that. And then obviously with the business the way it is, you don't want to drop your kid off. So I can see how things get a little bit, and it's just like, hey, we need money to keep us afloat as well. So like, I mean, I don't have the answers. And I hope that it's a thing where like they were operating, under survival, and they were trying to do best by Gary and, to better their situation. But also at the same time, we also know that people are trash,
especially family, man. When it comes to money, like, I mean, Dan Cook, I just recently rediscovered an interview where he talked about he put his brother in jail because his brother stole millions from him. So
it's like it's tough. It's tough, but it's interesting.
This is a dirty fucking business. which is very evident in the movie that's coming out Saturday night. We talked about SNL earlier. This is the movie about the first night of the 1975 premiere of SNL, and basically like the frantic nature that behind the show and just trying to put that show on for the first time. I've been enamored by SNL and its process and Lorne Michaels' like approach to producing most of my life, and so very interested in seeing how this movie goes. Also because I've been exploring writing my own kind of version of this, but with like, the sketch comedy group that I did in high school. And so I'm really interested to see how Jason Reitman and this cast execute this. I mean, the guy that's playing Lorne Michael, he was the lead in The Fabelmans, and he was really strong in that. So I'm interested to see him in this. And it's a good cast. You got the Finn Woodward kid. You got the kid, the guy from Succession who played Cousin Greg and stuff. You got Lamont Morrison, who's playing
Garrett Morris.
Garrett Morris, thank you. And so I'm interested. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I also say the guy who's playing Chevy Chase. He really kind of
got his essence. Yeah, he doesn't quite look like him, but he's tall and lanky like him, and he's an asshole like him. Like when he had that bit,
he had that face. He has a very punchable face.
When he had that bit where whoever's interviewing him was like, "Oh, what's it like to be an ensemble?" He's like, "This is an ensemble," because Chevy was a dick. Like that's why he and Bill Murray they butted heads season 2. Like they got in physical fights. Like Chevy is a fucking dick. Still is.
Yeah.
Like folks, listen to Joe McHale's podcast appearance on the dude from Smallville. Fuck. I'll put the details in. Fuck.
Dude from Smallville.
Yeah, he played Lex Luthor.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, fuck.
I can't remember that guy's name.
Yeah, it's really frustrating me now. It's gonna drive me crazy. Yeah, but he just Google YouTube Joel McHale Chevy Chase. Joel McHale talks a lot about working with Chevy and how it was just a nightmare.
Okay.
Just a nightmare working with him. Speaking of nightmares, we got a 1.5-minute teaser for Snow White that looks god awful. To me personally, I mean, I was never into Snow White. Like I know it's like one of Disney's first animated full feature films. The CGI dwarfs look terrible.
Yeah.
It like for a movie that was filmed several years ago, it looks bad. But what do you think, Justin?
Also, Snow White. I don't know why they gave her that haircut, but it's not flattering on that actress. I think they should have gone a different route. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not necessarily all that interested, but at the same time, the Seven Dwarfs were very popular. They have obviously their own kind of personalities and things like that, and it was good for Disney. So, I imagine as they're looking back, they're just like, oh, we can bring back the Seven Dwarfs and really make some money off it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know the gentleman from Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage, had a lot to say about the casting and stuff for this. So maybe that's what put them off their game or whatever. But the CGI just looks terrible. Terrible. Yeah. So let's go into some animated stuff. So Moana 2 released another full-length trailer that gives a little bit more insight about Moana's journey. To me, honestly, it looks like a by-the-numbers kind of sequel. It doesn't really, there wasn't a wow factor, like, oh, that's why they did a sequel. But it was always supposed to be direct to streaming, and then they saw something in it that made them say this is theatrical. But I don't know. I feel like this feels like a money grab, honestly, because I know Moana is such a huge hit for Disney.
Yeah, I mean, but the good thing is that the original cast came back. So
that's after they decided to do theatrical. Before it was going to be a different cast.
Yeah, but if you have the original cast back, it's just like that's more of a reason to actually kind of make this thing and not just go what was it, Lion King 2, whatever that was.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, speaking of Lion King 2, Mufasa Lion King released a full-length trailer, which to me feels very much like Barry Jenkins is doing The Godfather 2 in the Lion King world. Like it's gonna be a flashback to Mufasa and Scar, who's actually his name is Taka.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it, and like Tasi was actually like, this makes it sadder, which is that Taka is actually the rightful heir by blood.
Yeah.
So and Mufasa's like adopted into the family. So how does that work?
Well, mind you, is like Scar saved his life because he was about to get eaten by an alligator or a crocodile, whatever, in that region, and ended up, like you said, kind of adopting him in, and then all of a sudden, like he ends up being the king. Like that is, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually interested in seeing this.
Yeah. I'm one. It's an original story, so like because the first one pissed me off so much because I didn't expect a frame for frame remake of it. Like I'm like I thought you were gonna do your own twist like you did with the Jungle, but nope. They're like we're literally just giving you the same shit, just worse.
Honestly, I'm still gonna keep my original thing that this is probably not gonna work with these live action animals
because they freak you out.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, because the cats, they just it's gonna lack the emotion and just the beats because cats have dead eyes and they're murder eyes. So like I hope at some point they decide to animate this in the future.
Oh, like 2D animation.
Yeah, 2D animation, because like it just seems like something that could be a very compelling story, which adds something to the Lion King lore.
Well, you never know. Maybe Barry Jenkins softened their features too in this. Maybe like it's different. It's Jon Favreau just maybe he was so close to it that he couldn't see how scary these lines were in CGI, and so maybe I'm going to reserve judgment because Barry Jenkins choosing this as his follow-up to the Underground Railroad series is a wild choice to me. So I'm like, he must have something to say because that's a crazy 180.
Yeah, true. But I mean, is it though?
Because you go from talking about runaway slaves and shit to talking about Mufasa's background?
I mean, yeah, but it then adds to, hey, this is why Scar wanted to murder his brother. This is all leading up to it. So like, this is the ground level on why this murder happens, however many years later, and things like that. So like, yes, it is something that's much lighter, but also like there are dark undertones, all throughout this because we all know the way it goes in the future.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. Darkness falls that whole family. Everybody gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Simba the only one, and he all fucked up too. Because as much as a happy ending as Lion King is, let's not forget Simba's fucked up. He went 10 plus years without like being able to talk to anybody about seeing his father get killed and then when his uncle did it. He literally met a gay couple that was like, "Hey man, your problems that you talk about, fuck those. Let's have a party." Like,
stop thinking about him. Here, try this macchiato.
Lion King is the most anti-therapy propaganda I've ever seen in my life.
It means no worries.
Just fuck it. One series where I'm kind of like, fuck it, maybe I'll enjoy this is Agatha All Along, starring Catherine Hahn. She's stuck in like this, supernatural world after Wanda put her there because of the events of WandaVision. This trailer is better than the first one. I will say that, her trapped in this world and like getting connected with these witches and shit like that and trying to figure out a way out, I'm guessing is the objective. But
regaining her power.
Yeah. But for me, I'm like, if I don't understand how this fits into the overall MCU, it's going to feel like homework.
True. But at the same time, it could be its own thing. And Agatha was, a great character, that kind of spawned out of WandaVision. And, it would be cool to follow up on her, but I just don't know, like you said, if it's necessarily going to flow into the main storylines. But I don't know. I mean, I'll check it out. Yeah. I'm just kind of not going to count on it being anything bigger.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair to like temper your expectations for it. Absolutely. Yeah. One show that I can't help but be excited about though is Daredevil Born Again. And granted, we saw a leaked trailer from D23, but man, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see these characters back in this iteration. He's got multiple Daredevil masks and stuff. So, like, what's that about? What's behind the upgrade? It's somehow...
It almost seems like he hasn't been Daredevil for a while.
Maybe. There is something about it that made me feel like, is this even darker than the Netflix series? Like, is it going to go, like, you know what I mean? Like, the intensity between him and Kingpin in the diner and, like, some of the scenes, I'm like, is this... I mean, are they really going for it? Like, they just like, oh, fuck it, embrace that Netflix and what they were doing. Yeah. I love seeing the dude who played Bullseye back, because that was a great villain. Just physically, that was a great villain for Matt Murdock. So I'm signed up. Like,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And this is out March?
Yes, and it's going to be a big series, and I think they're splitting it to 2. So it's going to be it's going to be a lot of next year, which is great. I mean, I hope that I didn't see Echo, so I've heard that they did goofy stuff with Kingpin, but hopefully that irons out with what's going on with Daredevil.
Echo started off great, where it ended, decent. I mean, it does add a little bit more into the Kingpin lore, but at the same time, again, like watching it, I was just like, okay, so where does this fit? And like, but I do think that it's gonna have some sort of it's gonna have something to do with the Daredevil film. It has to some degree.
Got it. And then last but not least, Rebel Ridge, which stars Aaron Pierre, who actually is going to be voicing Scar/Taka in Mufasa Lion King. This is about a gentleman who's trying to take bail money, I guess, for a relative to court, and he gets stopped by a racist police officer who takes that money, and basically it's him against this like fucking, it seems like a police force in like almost a sundown town, but there are black people at the station. So I'm like, oh, it's just about police corruption. So yeah. And he apparently is some kind of special forces dude probably, or some shit. So I mean, this caused a ruckus online and social media in a positive way, it seemed. I'm into it. I was like, oh shit, this seems cool.
Well, this almost reminds me of what's that film, Walking Tall? With The Rock. It's kind of in that vein, but I think that this is obviously far more gritty. Yeah. And this dude, the main dude in it,
Aaron Pierre.
Yeah. If we're watching it, I'm just like, my man's he's way too pretty for this role. But once he starts seeing him get busy, I'm just like, okay, I get it. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it actually is executed and everything like that. Don Johnson is a racist sheriff. We've seen that at Watchmen. So I'm like, let's go back to that. Well, I'm fine with it. But yeah, we'll see how that pans out. And folks, that wraps up our movie news and trailer reactions mini episode. Hope you all enjoy this content. Let us know what you think of it by hitting us up on social media at Medium Pete Podcast and all the platforms. You can follow me at Frodo_Blackens on Instagram and Threads. And Justin, how can people follow you as well as support the show financially if they choose to do so?
Guys, you can follow me at J Brown Did It on all the social media platforms, but you can support this show and make it even better than it already is by taking yourself over to patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We got bonus shows, we got mini shows, bonus episodes. There's so much content. You guys need to be a part of it. And again, it's patreon.com/medium popcorn.
That's right. All right, folks. We'll talk to y'all soon. Until then, stay classy.
Mm-hmm.
Medium popcorn, we are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn, woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault.